The Italians were without some of their key players, but nevertheless, it must have been a fabulous performance from the South Koreans.
Well, we've seen the Koreans playing in this World League here on Screen Sport, and as we said, Eddie, they're a team loaded with potential. They don't always deliver, but perhaps on that game, I didn't see it, I don't know if you saw it, but the suggestion is that their potential was delivered.
Yeah, I think they really must have played out of the skin. Giazzoli, good serve of this guy. Nice attack. The set high to the right, inviting in the outside hitter. Girotti. The flat service that time.
And he just made it over the net.
You can see it's a flat service by the fact that we could see the label on the ball all the way through the whole flight path of the serve. And we saw the result. Quite difficult to handle.
Defensive work from Ferreira, but the ball was down, and that's a long serve from the Italians. The big fella again. His serving not quite there at the moment.
No.
Not consistently by any means.
This is when the Italians usually get fired up, when their opponents serve.
Well, a rare point there for the Brazilians. Zorzi again.
Cracks in the armour, I wonder.
Perhaps he's just taken a mental time out. There was a 10-4 lead second set, and the Italians have had things pretty much the way they want it. But things can change quickly in volleyball.
And there's a good example of how well the Brazilians are playing. Good anticipation, the block thrown up, and was very effective. And they restored the lead with Oliveira.
Italy just not quite there at the moment. 2 quick points for Brazil, looking to make it 3 here, and they do so. It's like the Italians have just gone into autopilot. I think there's going to be a time, indeed, just as I say that, a timeout called by the Italian head coach Julio Velasco, and a few choice words may be uttered, I think, in the next few seconds.
I should think so, Nick. Let's see what happens after the bit of an ear bending they must have taken. Because they were looking a bit sloppy. Well, slop is the wrong word. They weren't looking their usual impeccable selves in the final phases before the timeout.
So here's Bernardi serving for the Italians.
Through Duggar.
Well, they're looking just a little bit weary once again, the Brazilians. They've gone through their purple patch, but Italy back in control of this second set. Although Brazil will get another opportunity here, and Giazzoli checking out off the block and getting into the crowd.
The Italians are a bit lucky to get away with that, because it was a rather obvious ploy. There's nothing too ingenious about the construction of the attack, and it should have been better read by the Brazilians. A bit porous in defence then.
It's a nicely angled smash there from Ferreira. If this is your first sighting of Zorzi, the Italian number 11, I wouldn't make too much of this game. He's normally a lot more effective than this.
Looks a bit out of sorts, doesn't he? So far in this game, in any case, he's produced no fireworks, and we know he's very capable of producing those fireworks. And I wonder if he's holding back a bit for the final phases of this competition, and I suppose for the Olympics.
Well, these teams know they're going through to that second round, and of course there is the small match of the Olympics as well, so it's a busy summer for these volleyball players. So why go flat out in a game like this, I suppose. Serving for the Italians, Andrea Gianni.
Tandy Samuel, the right-hander down the line.
Samuel with the service. Again,
Brazil getting a bit of change now.
so Samuel will continue his service. The crowd don't like it. The Italian judged to have touched the net, perhaps. Let's see if we can see it.
It's a very fractional thing. Oh, it spun away.
There's a foot on the line there. So Samuel with service.
Another good one.
The block was up, but just a bit too long. That was unlucky for the Brazilians. Samuel receives. And the smash, perfect. What a good play there from the Brazilians.
The overhead set to the right of the setter, and the outside hit diagonally struck right into the backcourt.
Chiarotti serving for Brazil, who answers to the name of Douglas. And the Italians replying in style as well. Bernardi finding the seam and putting the ball away.
Zorzi favours the spun toss when he serves. Spins the ball as it goes into the air, so that when he makes impact, he's still getting a good rotation as the ball will move through the air. Let's see him do this. There's a spin. Clip on anything.
Oh, goodness only knows what the Italians are going to do when this fella gets into top gear.
The receiver there had to take about 2 steps forward, which is always a problem for receivers on a service. Just a misanticipation, or perhaps something that we couldn't see from this position. The ball dipped, but that always throws the whole balance of the play off, because the setter doesn't read the receiver quite as perfectly as he should. Happened there.
Ball judged to have been down. It was an interesting little serve that from the Brazilians. It just died over the net, but the Italians managed to rescue it, and they're moving ever closer to this second set. Gardini with service. The block was there. Brazil with another chance. And eventually, at the third time of asking, it was Vullo that put it away.
Power blasted that one out.
Would not be denied. That was his third attempt at it there from Fabio Vullo, and it was third time lucky. Set point. Gardini with service. Long. That's out. A long look there from Ferreira, but he has given up this second set, and really it was only a matter of time. So Brazil fall again. Italy now take a 2-sets-to-love lead. You're watching the World Volleyball League on Screen Sport. Welcome back to Turin. Nick Halling and Eddie Cash bringing you the final first-round game in the World League between Italy and Brazil. And at the moment, the Brazil team very much on the receiving end. And Eddie, what on earth can their coaching staff have said to them during that intermission?
Well, I think they'll probably be saying to them, look, let's try and return to the early form of the game when you went into a 5-1 lead. I think the secret there was to plug up holes when you're side out, and so you deny the Italians any opportunity to score. And also, I'd like to see them make use of a lot more use of the big guy Negrão, who, when he's had the ball, has been quite threatening. Admittedly, the Italians have learned how to handle his power, much more so in the second set, but he's still a danger. He's still a threat at the net, and I'd like to see more use made of him. I'd like to see Lima setting him up a lot more, particularly in this good outside right position.
Although we just saw an example of the power of Andreas Zorzi. Very well played there by the Brazilians, talking about power. It was put away with some style by Brito.
He's coming to his own a bit in this game. We saw him earlier in the competition. He didn't look particularly outstanding, but he's had a good game, and he's someone else that they could employ a lot more at the net. Plays quite centrally.
I think this is a point that is worth making. It's not as if Brazil are playing particularly badly in this game, is it?
Not at all.
Not a lot they're doing wrong.
Not at all. If you looked at this game objectively and forgot about the actual scoring, you'd think Brazil are holding their own and they're doing pretty well. But they're losing vital points. And as I said at the top of the show, Italy don't give anything away. When Brazil are scoring, they suddenly go into a different mode, saying we're not going to allow them anything at all. They're very, very tight. And so Brazil are just getting no room to maneuver on their own service. It's more like it.
Service continuing with Oliveira. Samuel rides his luck a little bit there, and so Oliveira will continue with service. Let's see what happened.
I think one thing, going back to your earlier question, Nick, that the Brazilians could do to make more of an impression is to concentrate a lot more on their services. It's noticeable that when they focus on the service, make them long, they push them deep into the backcourt, and they get good line and length and perhaps a bit of movement on the ball, then they're placing the Italians under a little bit more pressure to get the ball back to the net. But every service has got to be perfect for them to do that. But anything modest such as that service is going to be punished by the Italians, because it'll come straight back at them with renewed vigor, exactly like that.
Zorzi it was with the smash off the block. But it's Brazil leading 3-1, third set.
So many options.
And a little bit of momentum here for the Brazilians.
Let's see what they make of this service. It's not bad. Very low trajectory over the net.
Some desperate defending here from the Italians, but I think they've won the point.
Well, the Brazilians are claiming it. Samuel is, certainly. This is a nice play.
Well, we couldn't quite see from that camera angle. Samuel was right there, and he's right.
Another good one.
Well, no doubt about that one.
You can kid them once, but twice in a row is asking a bit much, I guess. Same serve again. Equally as good this time. The Italians just modify their approach.
Zorzi with service.
Enormous power there from Zorzi, right from the backcourt, coming in like a bird of prey and slamming home a blistering spike. Look at that. Two players within reach.
Well, Samuel sort of holding his palms outstretched there, but it was tough to see what he could do with that. It was perfectly placed.
He just looked up as if to say, well, what do you do with this guy?
Oh, nicely done by the Italians, changing the angle of attack and put away Bernardi. I think that literally and metaphorically caught the Brazilians flat-footed.
Yep.
Zorzi with service, and he is starting to turn it up a notch here, third set.
That's a good serve as well. Dipped nicely, but the Brazilians responded and sent it back with interest.
Gavio it was who finished it off, number 3, straight at the feet of Gianni. And serving now, Chiarotti. Well, a wild smash there from Bernardi. That's uncharacteristic. So the Brazilians take a 5-3 lead third set, and with a timeout on the court, another timeout here. You're watching the World League of Volleyball on Screen Sport. Welcome back back to the Palasport. Ruffini, Nick Halling along with Eddie Cash enjoying the action. Italy leading 2-0 against Brazil, but Brazil leading this third set 5-3 and putting up some pretty stubborn resistance. Chiarotti with service. It's a long floating serve. The Italians dealt with that easily, but Brazil at the net denies Zorzi.
Playing well now, Brazil. They obviously didn't hear me, but they were reading my mind a bit when I told them to concentrate a bit more on the services, because they've improved in quality, and it's always putting the Italians under a bit more pressure. For example, there.
The two-man block at the net once again, 2 quick points, and for the first time, I think, since the very early stages of this game, we're just seeing 1 or 2 furrowed brows on the Italian side.
That's right, that's right. I don't know if it's a lapse in their concentration or whether the Brazilians have genuinely got them under pressure. But that we see an example of what happens when you try to put too much Chiarotti, knowing that nothing but a brilliant service deep into the backcourt of the Italians is going to suffice. Just pushes it that little bit too far.
Off the block, the Italians were always second in that particular race. So Brazil with a useful little lead here.
And playing every point as if it's the last one now.
Ferreira with the service. Another good jump serve. Nothing wrong with that. But buried by the big outside hitter, Andrea Gianni. Is Gardini. Not seen so much of him as the game's gone on. A mistake by Samuel. Brazil get away with that temporarily.
It was a viciously spinning serve, really spun wickedly away from the receiver.
There is the receiver, Samuel. Kept a check on his emotions perfectly today. He's a very fiery sort of character, but no nonsense today.
Very loose play.
Well, they never got the reception right and were always struggling. And this is not what Brazil need here. A little run of points from the Italians. They'll soon be level. Well, the big smash coming in from the outside there from Ferreira.
And when you're playing like this, Brazil know their percentage chances of making errors in their attacks is quite high, because they've got to play every point as if it's every rally as if it's the last one. It's really all or nothing stuff for the Brazilians. They know if they try to calm down and play gently, efficient volleyball, it's not going to work against the Italians. They have to play with adventure on every single rally. And that's what they're doing, and sometimes it's paying off, but sometimes they make errors that seem to an outsider rather crass, such as then. That's good stuff. Sharply punched away. Brito being the man. And he's having a good set.
Serve that died over the net from Brito.
And Brazilians should have made a bit more of that.
And there's an ankle twist here. This looks a little bit nasty for Andrea Gianni. And straight away his teammates are over to him.
And he's been such an instrumental player in the Italian team so far. Be a pity they lose him.
Gone down very heavily on that left ankle. And straight away the medics are there, the coaches there, the teammates are there.
It's interesting, you know, Nick, we often neglect the physical aspects of the play. Those shoes that they've got on there, by the way, they've got gel implants in the sole to negate the impact when they're jumping up and down. I've just noticed them, but they're special volleyball. Nice close-up of the sole. But it's actually got a gel implant that disperses the impact when they're falling down on them so much. And you can imagine the effects on the knees, and the shuddering impact throughout the spine. They have to do something to try and lessen that. And I've seen the actual material experimented. You can drop eggs on the stuff, and the eggs don't smash. And of course that's of great benefit to volleyball players. But it's something that we tend to neglect. But they're also, remember, using the muscles of the traps and the deltoids on their spiking. They're using the calf muscles for leaping at the net. They're using thigh muscles. So really, all the body takes a bit of a pounding throughout an hour and a half's worth of volleyball, and sometimes longer.
And they're still working on Gianni on the sidelines. Let's hope he's all right, but be surprised if he comes back in this game. Oh, the Brazilians riding their luck there. Their luck just ran out. Just not enough height, no direction, and Oliveira unable to come up with the block. So Italy with their noses back in front. And this has been an impressive run from the Italians, just when it looked as if Brazil were going to make a game of it.
It's interesting how that little injury seems to have spurred them on a bit. The possibility of losing one of the key players seems to have made them switch up again. Again, players going floundering. The possibilities of injuries are heightened by the fact that the floor's now getting quite slippery as the sweat's just dropping from the players onto it. Every so often you'll see players drop to the knees to mop it up, and then between sets we have moppers coming on to try and dry it out. But it's unavoidable really in volleyball. You're going to get that moisture on the surface, and that's a potentially slippery surface. And of course it's you'll see most of the players at this level all wearing knee pads. Not only does that help if they're going to crash down digging for a ball, but also it minimises the impact when they slip on the knees. Knee injuries are quite frequent in this game.
Giazzoli waiting patiently for an opportunity to continue serving. The Brazilians are still arguing with the officials about that previous smash. Brito, their number 3, was judged to have crossed the line. I don't think he agreed with that decision, and you don't overturn referees' decisions by arguing about them, even if you do manage to blow off a bit of steam. He's still blowing off some steam there. Here he is again, very wide on that occasion.
Yeah.
So Giazzoli.
We saw the mopping up operation in the background just then, Nick. I was reading some stats on how much sweat these guys actually get rid of throughout the course of a regular volleyball game. Something like 9 litres
Wow.
of sweat. 9 litres is the average, well, not the average, it's, I should say typical amount that a top-class volleyball male player sweats out during the course of the full game.
That's how much you and I drink in the normal course of a game, isn't it?
I thought you were going to say a normal course of an evening at the pub, actually. 9 litres, that's modest for you, isn't it?
That's point Italy.
That's a weeknight.
The Italians looking to finish this one off here. The block in place, but still Italy with the initiative. Still the Brazilians won't give it up. And at last, the Brazilians are broken. There's a brave resistance on that last point, but the smash from Bernardi ultimately too powerful. And Italy also too powerful for the Brazilians, who played as well, probably just about as well as they can play, but just not good enough when the Italians are playing with inspired form in front of their own fans. They win quite comfortably, as it turns out, by 3 straight sets. There's confirmation, 15-6, 15-8 and 15-7, an accurate reflection of their dominance. And it's Italy and Brazil that will move on to the second round. Korea came close, but not close enough.